We're coming to the end of September and there's some big single card market movers in the Scarlet and Violet era and in the Sword and Shield era. A lot of card prices are cooling off. We've seen some really big spikes in a lot of the Scarlet and Violet era cards. A lot of illustration rares are actually performing very, very well in particular sets. However, when you actually look at the wider, broader picture of Scarlet and Violet and especially Sword and Shield, a lot of stuff is cooling off. Of course, there are some that are booming, which we'll go into today, but there are majority of them are actually going down in price, especially the top level cards. We're not going to be looking at every single card that has been going up or down, but today we're going to get a little snapshot at a bunch of cards from the Scarlet and Violet era and the Sword and Shield era to find out what has been going on in the market right now. We'll be looking at TCG Player today. Let's jump in. Starting things off today, we have the Rainbow Sylveon VMAX from Evolving Skies. We're diving straight in to Evolving Skies. We're not looking at the alt arts, mainly because the alt arts in Evolving Skies has been falling, like across the board. I'm going to be doing a video covering alt arts. It is now the time to buy because we saw what happened in the Sun and Moon era of alt arts, and you know we're kind of getting a repeat of what's going on in Sword and Shield as well. So the rainbow cards in Evolving Skies have been shifting upwards. A lot of them, especially the evolutions when it comes to things like the Umbreon and of course this Sylveon. Now I know that a lot of rainbow cards aren't everybody's cup of tea. It's kind of a hit or miss whether or not people like the rainbow cards from Sword and Shield era, but we can't deny the power of what has been going on. So when we scroll down, we can take a look at what has been going on with this card. So over the past 3 months, it has been dropping, going down by 27% from a pretty decent high of $54. So it has been falling quite substantially. A lot have been actually sold, which is actually quite interesting on a daily basis. But again, this card, the lowest price is sold is $31. Highest has been 51, so you got that middle of the range there. But we go back over the last 6 months. We want to get a bigger snapshot of what has been going on. This card is up 55% overall, and this is where we got to kind of look at the bigger picture here, right? It had a really, really big boom where it pretty much more than doubled its value, right? When it reached here, we're looking at 138% increase. It did incredibly well, right? And that was back in June this year. And now it's starting to come down, but even though it is starting to fall, it is still up, right? It is still up from where it once was 6 months ago, which is very good, right? 55%. And it's kind of, it is going down, but it's going down at a much slower, more steady pace, whereas obviously that was a huge spike and a kind of a big steep drop there. We go back over the past year, and we can really see the growth of this card. It is a beautiful card. Of course, Sylveon's one of my favorites, but it's really interesting to see that rainbow cards, up nearly 100% overall in the past year. Very, very good one. That is definitely moving, especially for a rainbow. We're carrying on with rainbow, and we're carrying on with Sword and Shield. We have the Blaziken Flaming Chicken, not the alt art this time. This is the rainbow from Chilling Reign, Chilling Pain. This is an interesting one. This one actually has been booming like crazy. Right, we'll take a look at this. Over the last 6 months, this beast has gone up by 174%, which is absolutely bonkers. And it has been falling as well. That's the crazy thing, right? We go back, June, July, and this card went up by 300%. That's actually incredible. And yes, it is falling, but, it's got a long way to go back to where it once was 6 months ago. We went over the past year, and we can really see that this card has gone up by 215% overall, which is just crazy. I mean, even at that peak, look at that. I mean, 350%. That is just crazy. Really interesting, right? Chilling Reign is getting more expensive. Pull rates are very tough, especially even for the rainbows, let alone the alt arts. This is a very, very interesting card indeed, to be honest. I mean, if you look at the sale prices of this card, it ranged anywhere from the lowest at $5 and the highest at $145. This is, I don't know if it's some form of weird shenanigans going on, but we'll take a look at the listings so we can get a better idea. So we've got near mint ones around $35. You've got another one here for $50. So yeah, you're looking at potentially anywhere between $35 and $50 to $60 for this card, which is just absolutely crazy. Next up, we got a gold card. We got the Ultra Brawl from Brilliant Stars. This is another interesting one. Hugely playable card, of course, and that's what gave it its price tag. This one has actually overtaken the Arceus alt art from the set as well. Brilliant Stars is getting a little bit more pricey, a little bit hard to get hold of. Still had really, really good pull rates, when you go through Brilliant Stars. And, this goes to show when you have a really, playable card, it will hold its value. And, until it disappears, which, could be a while. But this one is definitely doing very well. So let's take a look at it. So over the past 3 months, it's gone up by about 10%, which is pretty good in 3 months, right? But we go back over the last 6 months and we can see that this card has actually dropped by 22%. That is the thing you got to look at, is when you look at, step back and you look at the wider picture, because you can be here and you're like, yeah, but over the last 3 months it's doing really well, but over the last 6 months it's trying to claw back to where it once was, and it did actually dip quite a bit. And we go over the past year, it is still up overall at 17%. So it's really interesting when you take a look at the, you know, broader picture. And on top of that, it is, you know, holding quite steady, right? We see recently it is not really moving a huge amount over the past, you know, couple of months, which is what you want to see. You don't want to see these really up and down spikes and drops like crazy. Here was pretty consistent, and here recently is very consistent, but this bit in the middle, which was earlier on this year, was pretty volatile, to be honest. So this one's definitely an interesting one that has been moving. I mean, when you look at the sale prices, you got $16 at the low, $53 at the high. There's only a couple of listings here, you know, both around $30. So very, very interesting. Next up, we have the Garchomp from Astral Radiance, the Trainer Gallery one. This one's been really, really interesting. It's been doing pretty well. We have over the last 6 months for this one. Big fan favorite, I think. This one's gone up by nearly 40%, which is very impressive. I mean, it did actually go up to 136%. So it had a huge spike, and it did drop by about, well, basically by about 100%. And then it went up recently. So it's been pretty steady again over the past few months, which is pretty good. We're going back over the past year, it is still up 33%, which is very good. Like, that is good to see, especially a Trainer Gallery card as well. We don't really talk much about Trainer Gallery cards these days. It's kind of past, you know what I mean? Even recently, over the past 3 months, it has been going up. So Garchomp, I think, down the line will be a huge fan favorite. I can't believe it's already a fan favorite, but I think he'll do well. We're going back to Rainbows. We're looking at the Regidrago coming in from Silver Tempest, the Rainbow V-Star. Doing very well. Again, I believe it's a playable card, or quite a good playable card, because the normal V-Star is actually worth quite a bit as well. And it's doing really well, right? Over the last 3 months, it's gone up by 48%, which is very impressive, actually, for this little Rainbow card. It's actually one of the most expensive cards in the set. Yeah, it's crazy. Like, behind Lugia, it is up there. You wouldn't think so, but it is. We go back 6 months, and this card's gone up by 210%. We go back over the past year, and this card's 273%. That is absolutely bonkers. Like, that's incredible. So yeah, if you have this in your collection, I mean, even the V-Star, I have the normal V-Star, not the Rainbow, and I thought it was just bulk, so I was going to throw it away, and then I saw the price of it, and I was like, holy smokes. So yeah, incredible. And it's going to drop. You know, as soon as it's no longer a playable card, it will drop. So if you do have this and you don't really care that much about it, maybe you can sell it off for a pretty penny. Sticking to Silver Tempest, we're going with the Trainer Gallery Rayquaza VMAX this time. The big Rayquaza. This one has fallen. So we're looking at a card that has fallen. We've been seeing cards that have been booming. So we're seeing one that has fallen 21% over the past 3 months, which is not very good for this card. This was one of the biggest cards in the set. Still is. But it was a lot bigger than this. Over the last 6 months, though, up by 6%, which is not too bad. Over the past year, pretty much level. So it did see a huge spike, right? It did see a huge spike when it went up by about 70% back in May, and then it's fallen just as fast. So that's pretty crazy. That, you know, goes to show how volatile that the card was earlier on this year. Could have been a little bit of manipulation going on, but we can see here, lowest sold price $13, highest $61. There is a few listings on here. So we got one here for about $20. These are all near mint, which is pretty interesting. A big variety of prices here on TCG Player for this Rayquaza. I do love the card though, but it's not like the Evolving Skies one. Not quite. All right, we're moving on to something a little bit more recent. We're going into the Terrapagos EX. This is the regular EX, like the crystal version of the turtle, not the SIR. This one's quite an expensive one. Okay, yes, it's dropped by 36% since its pre-order price. However, it is a little bit more realistic in the fact that it's bouncing back, that it fell quite heavily, and now it's bouncing back. I would say this one is a winner, really, I would say, because like if you look, yes, it dropped by like 57%, right, which is absolutely crazy. But then we went from $10 up to $16, so it's gained 60% of its value back. To me, I think that's fine. I think that is pretty good going. I think we'll see this card, you know, $16 for a regular EX is very, very good. I mean, we've seen stuff like the Tilmask Ogapon do very well, the Charizard from Obsidian Flames do very well. So we have seen playable EXs perform very, very well. Iron Hand's another one which does hold their value. And again, if you do have this and, you know, you're not that interested in playing, sell it. You know, it's a pretty good one. I mean, you look at the sales, lowest at $3, highest at $27 or $28. It's pretty wild. There's only one list in the moment at $16. I mean, exactly, people needed to play the game, so it's going to sell very quickly. Right, on to Paradox Rift, we have the Iron Valiant EX, the SIR. Beautiful card. I have this in my collection. Absolutely stunning. But it has dropped quite heavily. So let's take a look at this. So over the past 3 months, this card has dropped 42%. That is a big oof. A lot of sales have also been had with this card, and it's quite scary, right? It's dropped that much over the past 6 months. It has fallen 31%. Look at that massive drop. And then we go back over the past year, pretty much since it came out, we're looking at a 60% drop overall, which is a hefty amount. It is a beautiful card. I think I picked mine up for, I think mine was like £22, I think, something like that. I picked up at the card show. So we're looking around $20. $100 was the highest sold price, and then $17 was the lowest. Let's take a look at what's currently being listed. So pretty much all near mint, and we're looking anywhere between $20 to $25 for this card. So overall, it has been falling, and it could continue to fall. There's a lot of Paradox Rift around at the moment. The pull rates aren't the easiest, but hey, it's not performing very well. Next, we're going to Paldean Fates, and we're looking at the Iono. So not the Iono from Paldea Evolved, but the one from Paldean Fates. There was a lot of buzz around this card when the set was shown. You know, obviously we had the Charizard, the Mew, and stuff like that. And it was like, well, look at this Iono. This is going to be a big playable, you know, good, strong, I say playable card, but big contender of being a valuable card in the set. And I think it is, right? I still think it is, even though it has dropped quite a bit. It is still one of the most expensive cards in Paldean Fates. Bear in mind, Paldean Fates is everywhere. It is literally everywhere. Pull rates aren't the easiest, though, when it does come to Paldean Fates. So let's take a look at this. Over the past 3 months, this card has dropped by about 22%, which is quite a bit, actually. A lot being sold on a daily basis. Over the past 6 months, it has dropped 45%. Like I said, this was a big ticket card, and overall dropped 70% from its pre-order price. So this card has fallen like absolute crazy. And as you can see here, highest sale price was $150 and the lowest is $19. This is a big oof. We take a look at the listings. We've got quite a lot around that $25 mark for a near mint. So that is interesting to see. Yeah, this one's a big faller. I mean, to be fair, a lot of the Paldean Fates cards have been falling. A lot of the like bigger cards, like the Charizard and the Mew, have been doing very well just because they're so hard to pull. And they're cards that people want. Gardevoirs hold pretty well as well. And then some of the baby shinies have shifted upwards. But Iono fallen out of favour. Onto Temporal Forces, we've got the long neck boy coming in. This one has been falling as well. Over the past 3 months, it has fallen 16%, which is, again, another big oof. Over the past 6 months, it's only down by 2%. Not too bad. Don't forget, it did see a big spike. And since its release, it's up 25%. So that's not too bad from its release. And like you can see here, right, it did actually drop to about $50. And then it saw this huge boom, became a playable card. And that's how we saw the spike of this. This is still the most expensive card in Temporal Forces. Like all of the SIRs in the set, all the big ones as well, have gone down in price. Iron Crown, Iron Leaves, all the legendary doggos, they've all gone down in price. So I think it's going the same way as Paradox Rift. A lot of the stuff in Paradox Rift has been shifting downwards as well. There is a lot of products still around. The set is still relatively new, especially when it comes to Temporal Forces. Yes, the pull rates are still tough, but then again, it's still going to fall. And yeah, you can see here, you know, high sale price 120, and then, you know, 32. Listings, let's take a look. So we're looking, you know, near mint, 52. That's not too bad. You got 70, 85. So people trying to, you know, sell it for a little bit higher than what it's going for. But yeah, around $66. This card, still pretty good, but has been falling. Next up, we're going into Twilight Masquerade. No, we're not talking about the Greninja this time. We're talking about Kieran, a special illustration rare trainer card. Again, I'm not a huge fan of trainer cards, but I can't deny this one's been doing, yeah, not too bad actually. So let's take a look at this. Over the past 3 months, this card has gone up by 26%, which is very, very good. Obviously, this hasn't been out very long. Over the past month, however, it did drop by 24%, but not by much. I don't know what that weird dip was there, but not by much. Overall, this card, I think, is still holding relatively well. You look across the board with Twilight Masquerade, Greninja is just in a whole world of its own. Carmine's doing pretty well. Perrin is doing pretty well. But then after that, a lot of the other SIRs in the set have been falling. Eevee's been, well, Eevee's not an SIR, it's just an IR. Eevee's been doing alright. But if you look at the Big Bear and some of the other special illustration rares, all the different Ogopons, they have been going down. Kieran is the only one that's been really holding the fort. As far as like the middle of the road SIRs go in the set. And it's been doing relatively well. So this one is definitely one to keep an eye out. I expect it to fall lower over time. But we'll have to wait and see. And the final one we're looking at today is a little one. It is Little Marill from Paldea Evolved. This one is an illustration rare. Absolutely adorable, by the way. Illustration rare. I absolutely love it. It looks really colourful. Really, really impressive. This one has been doing pretty well. Over the last 6 months, this card's gone up by 30%. We've seen a lot of climbs with illustration rares, especially in sets like Paradox Rift and Temporal Forces. Obviously, we've seen it with Paldea Evolved already, with the Tyranitar, the Raichu. We've already seen illustration rares go up, with the Tyranitar, the Magikarp, obviously, the more iconic ones. But yeah, even the ones like this, when you start seeing cards that are pretty cheap going up. I mean, this one was up by 71% recently to reach $12, but it has come down slightly over the past few months. We go back over the last 3 months, went up by 4%. Go back over the past month, it's dropped by 8%. But if we look at the past year, this card overall has been up by 14%, which is actually pretty good on the year. Obviously, it has fallen a little bit out of favour, but it's still up. So this is one to keep an eye on. I like looking at cheap illustration rares. When I say cheap, I mean like around that $10 to $15 mark. It's nice to see those illustration rares and then see them start to gain value and reach that, like breaking the $15, $20 range, which is pretty impressive. There you have it, guys. Those are just some cards throughout the Sword and Shield and Scarlet and Violet era. Of course, there are a whole bunch of big movers going on in the market right now. You've got to shop around, of course. Don't just go for TCG player. Have a look at places like eBay. You might be able to find good deals. Another good place I find if you want to pick up cards is places like Facebook Marketplace is another good one. But of course, prices on single cards can vary massively depending on the quality and the condition of those cards. I think illustration rares in Scarlet and Violet era probably are going to go to some extent the same way as alt arts. I think more so than special illustration rares. A lot of special illustration rares have been falling across the board, and alt arts, same from Sword and Shield. But we're starting to see the rise in price and the value of rainbow cards, which is very, very interesting, especially in the Sword and Shield era, because not a lot of people like rainbow, but hey, some of them are going up in value, which is pretty good, especially from the big sets that everybody loves. But overall, across the board, right now is a good time to pick up some cards. Yes, we've seen some big movements, but when cards drop in price from their all-time highs, for me, that is always a good time to pick them up, and that's what I tend to look at. Some good bargains and some good deals. And there are some good cards where if you're not a person who plays the TCG, like the Terrapagos, and you have some, you don't need them. Same with the Regidrago. Sell them off, make a good little bit of profit, which is always pretty good in my book. If you made this far into the video and you've enjoyed it, make sure to smash the like button and make sure to subscribe for more Pokemon content. And let me know your thoughts down in the comments about what's been going on in the market, and is there any other cards which have just been going absolutely crazy, which you have noticed as well, because obviously there's so many cards, won't be able to scan them all and look at all, so it'll be really interesting to see. But that is it from me, guys, in today's video. If you watch more Pokemon content, make sure to click the video on the screen, and of course, make sure to hit that subscribe button. But as always, thank you so much for watching. You guys are legends, and I'll see you in the next one.